Bearcat Bounce podcast. Back at it again. Happy Monday. Happy Monday following a 1-0 start to the season. Happy Monday following a 38-20 victory over the Towson Tigers. Happy Monday, Labor Day Monday. BVP still here live Monday for a little powwow, a little congregation, if you will. Going to discuss the happenings of the weekend. Look forward to what is going to be an exciting, thrilling week ahead and a Saturday to remember, if you will, as noon the Pitt Panthers come back. A little rivalry renewed yet again, part 2 after the win last season. But it's a Monday where everyone is here. The whole crew is together. And so without further ado, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer. Gentlemen, happy Labor Day. How are we?
Good. A little family function the early afternoon, and been home kind of chilling. We're on bake sale duty tomorrow for volleyball. So if you see me kind of in and out, I'm doing chocolate chip cookies.
Ooh.
For the bake
Super
sale
dad.
tomorrow. So
homemade boys?
No, I didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
They're just out of the tub. I normally would like to do homemade, but yeah. And then we've got the Satterfield press conference and practice tomorrow. Yep. I'll go straight from practice to Kelsey's game. So homemade, there's no time for homemade today, Brent, but
fair.
I make a mean Toll House bucket of cookie dough cookie.
Oh, see, you got to know which one to buy,
Yeah.
Just get the game plan and figure it out. Yeah, I make a mean chocolate chip cookie homemade. Maybe one day I'll let you guys try it. They aren't any magic cookies or anything like that. They are very good. You could say they're magical, but doesn't have the magic side effects. So cookies on deck. Cookies on deck. After a big win, I got y'all. Aaron, flu game. Aaron, we're gonna say it from here.
Aaron's
I've had a fever for 2 days. I'm really sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
You're sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Of being sick and
yes,
and tired. Yeah.
You like what I did there?
Yeah, a little 8 Mile. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you. Well, Aaron, I'm happy you're here for the flu game. It was a pleasure seeing you again and sit next to you in the press box. You are quite the camper up there. I thought you had some really good insight, and I'm excited to dive into it here on the pod. Ryan, sir, how are we?
I'm good. Had a nice extra day off. Got some epic yard work in, edged and mulched. Taking the landlords under my wing here, getting shit done around here. It's been good. Had a good weekend. Good Labor Day fun. So got to go see the Cats at Nippert. Always love first game back.
Let's go.
Just the feeling of football back in the Sigma Commons. So had a lot of fun there. Got to link up with some former players and friends. So it was good. Always a good time. Even
better after a win, I assume. So
yeah,
that's the biggest plus side here. Yeah. So you know what? I mean, without further ado, there's no reason to carry on this little preamble here, but I believe it's time to dive into things. But before we do that, it's a hat tip to our guys over at Danco Transmission and Auto Care. I saw Danco Joe's brother pregame. Aaron and I were able to see him and his daughter. Gave him a little shout out, gave him a little fist pump, and he was excited to dive into this show as well after following a win. And a win is exactly what happened. But if you're going to head to the game this weekend, it's noon kickoff this time. It's a big one. Pitt coming into town. If you want to make sure you get to and from with no issues, you should probably go get the car checked out. Especially if you're heading up to Oxford the following weekend. Just get the car checked out. See if you need any fixing. See if you need an oil change. $10 off that oil change. 10% off the next service. Danco Joe will hook you up. Let's dive into it. 1-0. It was a game that looked like it was going to be. Well, first off, shouts to someone on this panel here that picked correctly what they believed the first touchdown, who would score the first touchdown, and by which way that they would score. said first touchdown. Aaron, who was that? Was that you that called a Sorsby rush for the first touchdown?
It wasn't me.
Oh, what? Who was that again?
It might have been me. I don't remember.
Aaron, you know
I don't
who it
recall.
was. Just say it.
It was Brent. Brent called it.
Wow.
He was
Oh.
just doing
DUI
it
the guy.
He was doing it that way.
I know. I was trying to steal. I was stolen valor. I was trying to
Yeah,
snatch it from him.
Shout to our boy Tonk. Tonk immediately texted me and said, "You called it, bro." So, hey, you know what? If I needed a reminder, then Tonk has my back there. So shouts to him. But yeah, it was a Sorsby rushing touchdown to begin, cap off that first drive, and of course after that, the offense looked like it was going to take off in a 66-13 fashion, if you will. Shouts to last season, but really good first half. Brendan Sorsby looking awesome. Course is if you watch the little snippet that kind of the recap video that the football account put out today, just a couple hours ago, they kind of mentioned, hey, a win is a win. Wins are hard to come by, but we all know we got a lot of work we got to really get honed in on before next week. But just one quick stat, and then I'm going to go around the board for a couple of things. One quick stat is the fact that yet again it was a big time yardage game for the Cincinnati offense. They're fifth in total offensive yards per game, if you will, because obviously week 0, piling up just what was it, 658 total yards, and that's fifth overall. And if you want to kind of get into the nitty gritty of things, fourth is Arkansas, third Northern Illinois, second Tennessee, first Ole Miss. Each one of those teams played in FCS or FBC, whatever it is now, opponent. So kind of just similar fashion to garner those yards. So Sorsby right now 7th in the country with 383 yards passing. And every other name in that top 10 around him is some really good players. But obviously the defense, a couple of questions, this, that, and the other. Ryan, you were there. Ryan, you had a rewatch, if you will. Broad overview, just kind of game 1, and then we'll kind of hop into a little bit of offensive breakdown, defensive breakdown. But broad overview of is your mentality kind of just a win is a win, get out, continue, and prep for Pitt, or 38-20 over Towson. Your thoughts?
Start with the offense first. You just felt like they were in control the whole time. They basically were getting everything they wanted, as they should. But it's good to kind of see the playbook feels like the coaches have another year of confidence under it. I like the play calling. I like the triple option little gimmicks, the facts across with the receivers and tight ends. I think they had a good balanced attack, run, pass, and I like how they utilize motion sometimes too. Sorsby, he inched me closer to thinking he's the real deal. It's hard to just put the stamp on it when you're playing against a bad defense in comparison to what we're going to be seeing the rest of the year, especially in the Big 12, and especially next week. Pitt likes to pride themselves on being a tough, hard-nosed defense. So, but he made every throw. He got a couple gifts too. He had good poise in the pocket because some savviness that I thought that, we had Emory last year who was mobile, but, we didn't really give him a lot of opportunity to even breathe. So I thought the O-line they did a step in the right direction with pass protection. Obviously, if your quarterback's throwing for all those yards, you must have been giving him some sort of pocket and some time. That said, you still we know we have Xavier Henderson out there. We know we have a bunch of dynamic players. We got Joe Royer now. It's just who's going to be able to step up and be go-to guys, make the big plays, and when we need them against good competition. And, I think we have the quarterback that can get up there and, throw guys open or hit the open man. It's just being able to kind of hold this dynamic feel against better teams. Defense, I'm a little underwhelmed. I don't think that we should be giving up. How many yards was it? Like 400 plus? I can't remember.
Yeah, 425 total yards.
Yeah, you can't be giving up 425 yards. I mean, basically from the second quarter on, Towson kind of just felt comfortable in there.
I would disagree there, Ryan. They had the
You
second
would?
quarter, and that was it. They didn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah. The
Well,
first
they were
quarter was
still.
100
I
yards.
think they
second
were. I
quarter
think
was
they were running the
195.
ball. I thought they were running the ball comfortably. Like I don't think they should have been able to run the ball the way they were, all the way through second quarter and in the second half too. I thought, even though we're at a three-man front, I wasn't too enthused with our run defense. I thought our secondary was a little, they didn't really kill themselves other than that one play going into the end of the second half. I thought, Jordan Young, I thought he stepped up and played, definitely played better than he played last year, but I thought he kind of provided a little presence out there in the secondary, much needed. I think Jarrett Bartlett, I think he can flash. He just has the look, man, the look of like a stud linebacker. And just being able to utilize him with that three-man front, maybe trying to disguise him on stunts, or it's going to be hard sometimes for him to be able to flash and make a play on some run plays with three-man fronts. But I think he just has that look. He has the size, he has the speed, the twitch, the lateral movement. I thought he showed that several times throughout the game. So I liked what I saw with him. But, the other thing was, we kind of mentioned it before, the defense kind of felt just vanilla.
Yeah.
They didn't really feel they didn't really show anything exotic. They didn't really throw a lot of pressure. That's like my upbringing is like we pressure on third down. Like we cause chaos. We want to rush. We want to like get in the quarterback's face. We want to make explosive plays. And I didn't feel like that was necessarily the plan of attack, and that's fine. They're playing Towson. They might not want to put a lot of stuff on film, knowing that they could kind of get away with playing solid and, hide some of their stuff for Pitt and the Big 12 opponents. But I was just a little underwhelmed. I thought we gave up a little too much on the ground. I didn't feel like we were dominating enough, and I think that's the expectation on defense when you're playing against an FCS opponent. But just without Corleone, like I was also telling you guys, it doesn't feel like we have like a stud, like a star, or like a big playmaker. Like I was saying, Jordan Young was flashing there at corner. Bartlett was flashing there at linebacker. But just being able to, I'm not ready to like slam my fist on the table and say those guys are going to be, like Corleone level players. Like I don't think any of us would be able to step up and say that. And, without having him, especially with that three-man front, the D line and kind of like the front seven feels a little deflated. It's not super like big play, like playmaker potential sometimes. So we're just gonna have to see getting him back and kind of see how guys develop.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the defensive line was, and at times this is what hurt them, I thought the most. They were definitely crashing in to protect the middle. And I think that, if you get Corleone back, you don't have to do that as much, because a lot of the stuff that they ran,
he is the middle.
yeah, they just bounced outside.
Yeah.
And when you're not run blitzing, you're not sending linebackers, you're sending 3-4 guys on every play. You're playing 5-on-4, 5-on-3. Like there are going to be gaps at the line of scrimmage. I don't think that that's what we're going to see a lot of, going forward. I mean, it'll be interesting against Pitt, because Pitt, they've switched to an air raid offense. They're running a lot of tempo. So, you might be in a situation where you're dropping 7 or 8 into coverage more frequently against them, and a redshirt freshman quarterback that just started his first game.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought they, I thought in the first quarter they were really good. In the second quarter, it was almost all twos. And I think that, the depth is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's not good enough where you can run your twos out there against anybody else's ones and expect them to hold up. I mean, like, the big play, Trey Gala-Collard took a little bit of a flat route to the ball, and that put him behind the guy that made the catch. He's able to turn it upfield and go for a touchdown. I don't think that happens with your ones in at safety. And I think he would probably tell you he took a bad route to the ball and got sucked in a little bit and let that one go to the house. But like, some of those runs, there just wasn't anybody on the backside or on the front side of coverage once the ball got outside the tackle. That is going to be something that they have to look at and figure out, how, because, obviously Pitt is going to take a very hard look at that and say, well, let's attack where they showed weakness a week ago. But that'll be interesting too, because Pitt's number 1 back is suspended for the season. Yep. And their number 2 back got hurt. So he's looking like he's going to be out for Saturday. So the depth of Pitt's running back room is already going to be tested. But that said, the reason that Ryan is concerned is because I think Ryan could have had 4, 5, 6 yards of carry on some of those runs in the second quarter. I really, though, I thought in the second half, the defense was much, much, much better. I mean, they had 300 yards at halftime. They finished with 420, 425. Mm-hmm. So they didn't, and there was only, I think each team only had the ball 4 times in the second half. I don't know if you felt this way, Ryan. I felt they almost got out of halftime. And then when Evan Pryor broke that run on the first offensive touch of the second half, it felt like both teams were just like scrimmage mode. Let's get out of here. Like, and the reason I think that you saw Towson State do it, they were getting guys hurt on every play.
Yeah, they were.
Like, it legitimately, like, it was taking like 4 or 5 minutes to get guys up off the turf and out of the game. Like, I think their coach was just like, okay, like, we've seen enough. We hung with these guys. Mm-hmm. We proved what we need to prove to ourselves. Now let's get the hell out of here and not have half of our team, nursing wounds, because their conference, I think last year they had 4 of the top 20, 5 of the top 25 teams in FCS football. So they've got a gauntlet coming up. I think they were just like, all right, like, we're good. Let's get this clock rolling and everybody go home happy. Yeah. So that was part of why I think both offenses felt like they were kind of, I don't want to say flat, but they just weren't splashy. There wasn't much splash in the second half outside of that long run by Pryor. And I think it's just because they were like, let's go home.
That's fair on our offense did anything it wanted, like the whole first half. We don't need to go show anything else. Like, give them throw a couple teases out there to make Pitt have to go, scout up and run it in practice a bunch and get their minds thinking certain things. But I just thought that the defense, I don't know, obviously the coaching staff knows, like, they have a plan. They know what guys need what looks and like how they feel like certain guys are in their game and their development. And I don't know, just like when kind of you're looking at the scoreboard, you're looking at the yardages, like maybe we do need a couple more reps of our ones in there. And because they weren't necessarily lighting the world on fire in the first half. So I get it though. They feel like the game's kind of in control, but
I also want to say this. Scott Satterfield told us what he was going to do Tuesday. I think it's important when coaches tell you what they're going to do, you listen. He said, we don't want to get to a point like we felt we got last year, where when injuries pop up, we were putting in guys that were seeing their first reps, that were putting their first action on tape, and then you're playing from behind. I mean, he openly said, we are going to get as many guys, as many reps as we can get them, so that in week 6, week 7, when their number is called, they're not running out onto the field for the first time that the game actually like is in question. I don't think that game was in question at 28-10 or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, get those guys out there against somebody else's ones and figure out exactly not only what you've got, but what you need to work on. And they got a lot of that second quarter was a lot of what the second unit needs to work on, because there were not, on that touchdown that Trey Gallagher allowed. Yeah. that was all second unit. I Bartlett might have been out there. I think he was
Dingle's the one that got initially beat,
Dingle,
but
Dingle and
Callard was
Bartlett.
like right behind him, which is like he was just way out of place, I believe.
So there was 6 or 7 second unit guys out there at that point in time, and a lot of those runs in the second quarter were of the same ilk.
Mm.
That's what it is. That's what it was. And I think, against Pitt, you're not going to see nearly as much rotation. I think you'll still see some, but I don't think you're going to see mass rotation where like 6 or 7 second team guys are out on the field at the same time. It's like, okay, we'll get 2 guys in on this series and rotate 2 guys in on the next series, but be a little bit more intelligent when you're playing. That Pitt offense looks like it's got a chance to be pretty decent. The way that they opened up the season, they had 500 plus, I think, yards of offense. So I think you'll see a lot less of that. But he did tell us they were going to run everybody out there that they thought had a chance to play this year, and they were going to try to get them out there in meaningful reps. They just didn't play as well as the first group did, and got beat a couple times.
Yeah. And I think the standard should be in that type of game. They should be able to go in there and hold it down still. And I think that's kind of where my, a little discomfort was coming from. And, the other thing is best case scenario is you're doing that when you're up 48-10, not 28-10. Things might have, but it's hard to say, like, the offense can only get the ball so many times, but maybe if you drop a little more 3 and outs in there, get the offense more time to kind of score, because they were scoring at will. But I don't know. I see what you're saying, Chad, and I think next week, kind of like last year, we were saying the same thing coming into Pitt. Like, it's like, oh, this is like a real litmus test on where this team's at right now.
Right.
Good competition, and I think throwing this wrench in there where it's not like a glorified scrimmage mindset in some ways to kind of get guys out there and see what they can do. It's going to be like every single play is going to be a war, and we got to find a way to get a win. Got to have our best 11 on the field at all times.
Yeah, 567 total yards is what Pitt offense put up. We'll talk a little bit more about them as the pod wears on, but the main storyline, and I want to just kind of wrap up the defensive side of the ball for the Bearcats. Main storyline, a couple of days removed from the game, is the 26 players recording a stat, and it's not like you said, Ryan. It's not like it was 48-10, and they that third, halfway through the third and the rest of the fourth was getting everyone else in. It was a full entire game of getting everyone in, and then of course, right around what I believe it was 30 or I think it was 35. I think snaps that defensive players had throughout the game. That's 3 full entire rotations of players getting in. Aaron, I want to bring you in. Kind of your thoughts on that. I've seen people say it felt like a preseason game. It kind of a just a game to kind of prep for what Pitt is going to have, and very vanilla feel to it as well. Chad, off air, you were mentioning I don't quite remember even a single blitz, other than maybe having Bartlett be a spy and have a late blitz come up when the Towson quarterback got out of the pocket. But Aaron, your thought on kind of that main storyline of the defense kind of not really showing too much, because in Pat Narduzzi's press conference today, and Jeff Ucketer mentioned it here, and he did mention it's going to be a defense that they haven't faced, something that they really haven't seen is what Cincinnati is going to bring. And so maybe the UC staff knew that and kind of said, okay, we're going to bring something to Pitt that they really haven't seen. Couple days removed, Aaron, your thoughts on just kind of that approach that the defense kind of took on Saturday?
I think when you have an FCS opponent as your first game, I think you do treat it as close to a preseason game as you have on your schedule. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that kind of like what we were talking about, you got as many guys out there to see the field, get reps, and they all hit the cliche. Joe Royer hit it, and Scott Satterfield hit it in their pressers. That the most progression you see all season is from the first game to the second game. So they all made sure to toot that horn. But yeah, defensively, you got 30 plus guys in. It's not going to look great when you have 30 plus guys in.
Yeah.
That's
I agree.
What?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I want like to just. I'm sorry, I was taking cookies out of the oven. I don't want to say I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying the defense played well. They didn't. They were inconsistent. There were periods, there were drives where they looked pretty good. But as a collective unit, the defense has a lot to clean up. I'm just trying to add some context as, onto what we watched and what I was watching generally, like from the backside of the defense, watching, okay, who's on the field? What are they doing? Are they being aggressive? Are they just kind of like sitting back in coverage? I just didn't see a defense that was really attempting to play downhill.
Right.
I will say this though, they hit.
They hit.
They hit.
I heard you mention that on the recap. Big time.
There were 7, 8, 9. Like, ooh,
yeah.
I
mean, Ryan mentioned Jordan Young. He had a couple where he came up and laid the wood, and that's
Simeon Coleman
something.
did Simeon Coleman things.
Yeah,
popped a couple dudes.
Monte Whedon looks like he's ready. It's wild. And Jaquan Sanks too, man. Let's start throwing out some names. It just very impressive that freshman class. A lot of people obviously talked about it all throughout fall camp is how they've all flashed. And then the question then becomes: are they flashing because the older players ahead of them just aren't quite up to snuff? No, I think they're flashing because they are legitimately good and ready to play on this level. So it's going to be
those are guys that flashed. The guys that got here early. Whedon got here late, but like Coleman and Sanks, we saw them through the spring, flashing and flashed throughout camp, and then they flashed again on Saturday. Like, if you're looking at like the strength of a freshman class, if they get 3 like long-term defensive starters out of that freshman class, that is a damn good freshman class. We didn't even see Marquez Parker. I was kind of
surprised about that. Yeah,
I'm going to ask tomorrow what if he got dinged up or they just didn't think he was quite ready yet. Maybe they decided not to. Like, if the ultimate plan is to redshirt him, to not burn one of those 4 games,
not risk it
against Towson, because I think they believe they're going to need him later in the year. So I don't know the strategy behind that yet. I plan on, asking those questions tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're talking 3, 4, like early in their freshman year, 3, 4 defensive freshmen they're going to see the field a lot. I mean, I know twice that's happened.
Yeah.
One was Mark D'Antonio's second year, and the other was Luke Fickell's second year. When the freshmen came in, and it was like, okay, like these guys look like they're ready to go. So
Sanks the first true freshman to start in the opening game since Marquise Copeland. Chad, you had that
all-time great Bearcat
in your Breno Bites. Yeah, and friend of the BVP as well. Had him on. Go back.
One of the nicest humans alive.
Yep.
Royer can attest to that. What an awesome dude Marquise Copeland is.
Great guy. Super funny, but he's a great football player too.
Yeah.
Great football player.
Big personality, I love big smile.
Yeah. He's a great dude, man.
Roy,
that's why you saw him make it in the league for a couple of years.
Yeah. Won a Super Bowl.
There you go.
Hey, when obviously in basketball it's a thing, kind of the quarterback position as well, kind of where you see teams run into a tough scenario if they go with these 2 quarterback sets, and kind of see it in running back room as well. Kind of like getting in a flow, getting in a zone type ordeal. Is that something that works for defense as well, where you kind of like, okay, by the second series or third series, when you just go out there, each set of downs, you kind of get more and more locked into the game, instead of having, you play 1 series, you're out for the second series. You play the third and fourth series, you're out for the 5th series. Because there was one time where first and second down, the defense held Towson to like gaining maybe 1 or 2 yards. And then on like 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8, they brought in like 7 new players on the defensive side. And they gave up a first down.
Yeah. Well, sometimes with 3rd down, they have like specific packages that they kind of assign guys to. Different, like if they know they're gonna make a certain play call and they want to have so and so in to do a certain stunt or do a certain drop or a certain blitz or whatever. We used to do that. We'd have like guys who mainly just rotate in for one play.
Yeah.
No, but to your point previously, I do think it matters. And that's what it's kind of like a balance game of like lately the whole trend has been you want like 24 guys that can play on defense. You want a 1A and a 1B. But what you really need is you need studs that you want to not take off the field, and the guys that are going to establish themselves as the 1As, and it should really start to be like, all right, they're playing like 75% of the game, because that's the guy who's performing and delivering. It's kind of like that 25% is just making sure that this guy can go 100% at all times. He's not going to be tired at certain drives at certain points.
Right.
But it's a balance because you have so many guys they're so close in play style and capability, and like you want to try to keep guys happy and get everyone reps and keep everyone fresh. But if you keep going like 50-50 or like one drive in, one drive out, like it really does affect the defense. Communication habits are different.
Right.
I think it's hard to kind of time up, like some guys might be better at certain things and against certain looks. And if you're kind of always like rotating guys in and out, like the chances that you're having like the good matchup at all times, may not be happening. And I really do think being in a groove is like, you're playing football. You're playing like by the time halfway through the first quarter, like everyone's kind of locked in that groove. But if you're constantly getting bounced back and forth, it's really hard to kind of stay in that mindset.
Yeah.
But, I'm not a coach, so I don't know how the players have been responding to it and their method of the madness, but I can attest that it is crazy. It's so hard to balance. And obviously you'd want to keep your guys in there as consistently as possible. I think that's the recipe for success.
Yeah. I mean, one final thing on defense is the most obvious part of the defense this season. And that's something that obviously, hopefully we get even more clarity as the clarity continues every single day up until Dante Corleone's return. Obviously in Pat Narduzzi's press conference today, he said, we are fully expecting Dante to be back out there talking to their specialists and whatnot. Pat doesn't know, Narduzzi doesn't know anything, but we'll get more clarity on that.
I love the Inquirer running with that as a headline. Pat Narduzzi thinks Dante Corleone's going to play.
I didn't see that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, good for him. Like, did he call Aaron Himmler?
And I think my next girlfriend's going to be a supermodel. Let's just put that on the Twitter sphere as well. But yeah, it's that is obviously the most glaring thing, because you saw it in the post game presser where Scott Satterfield just kind of mentioned how much of an effect, not just physically on the field, that Dante Corleone has, but mentally, psychologically for all the other players out there as well. It's a massive thing. I mean, we're talking about an All-American at a seemingly very important position in a 3-3-5. So obviously that's going to be a storyline throughout the week. It's been one all year, but it was good to see him though on the sidelines. He was always the first running out onto the field and kind of hyping up the guys as they came off during timeouts and whatnot. But that'll be the biggest storyline going into Saturday, and his pending addition, whenever it is this season, is going to be massive for the defense. So the D is what it is. I thought I saw some really good plays by Eric Phillips. Cam Wilson flashed. Darian Varner needs to learn how to carry the football. Just a handful of different things that
he needs to learn how to get down. Get down.
Just recover it and get down. It reminds me, and I think John Williams would probably laugh about this by now, but the game at Indiana when Dez fumbled it and John Williams
he sat for like a year. He didn't play for like a year after that.
True. That's a good point. But yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see what happens. And kind of what to Ryan's point, I believe we see more flash plays from Jake Galday, from Dingle, from kind of those guys that are going to be the premier players when they're out on the field for multiple series in a row.
Yeah, I also would say, look, they've got to turn that athleticism into production.
Yeah.
Being incredibly athletic is great, but
Mhm.
it doesn't mean anything if you're not getting to the football and making plays. And we didn't see those guys in particular do a lot of that. We saw a little bit from Jonathan Thompson. We didn't see much from Dingle. We didn't see much from Golday. And need to see more from them because they are athletic freaks. But being an athletic freak doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And I said this Saturday, I think. Look, we expected this to be a 6-6, 7-5 type team. You know what that means? They're a work in progress. They're not a finished product. So we have to continue to look through it early through that lens. Now, if we get to week 3, week 4, we get into the Big 12 and we're not seeing improvement, then it is definitely time to throw up some red flags and say what they're trying to do right now isn't working. But if you thought that they were going to come out and look like a well-oiled machine with all of the new players and a completely new scheme, then we had different levels of expectation.
Yeah. Well, and then you add in the fact that you are without your main pass rusher off the edge that you brought in through the portal.
Sure. But we got to get over that. Like that.
Yeah. Well, yes. Right. That part's gone. But I'm just saying you got to adjust things as things happen.
It's like with last year in basketball when everybody's like, this is going to be a team that hangs on the bubble all year.
Right.
And then they were up in arms because it was a team that hung on the bubble all year.
Yeah.
You knew this was coming.
Yeah.
You predicted this. You expected this.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Dylan Raiola says, buckle up. It's going to be a ride. So, it was a ride. I fully expect Jake Golday to flash against Pitt. I mean, you think back to the game last year at Pitt. I think that was Dingle's best game as a Bearcat. He had some plays that were unreal. Flu game has put on a sweatshirt. Aaron, you're going through the elements down there. I can tell, but I think that it's going to be a game to kind of showcase a little bit more. Obviously, with them being a little bit more pass happy, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But although they did run the ball really well against Kent State of all teams, so defensively, anything else out of you guys? I definitely think Jordan Young is a lock in there at the corner. I think the other corner spot it'll continue to be a trial by error.
Armani Arnold had a bad play. I mean, Kalen Carroll was solid. I didn't notice too much. So I think Kalen Carroll, if you're looking as a result after week 1, is even solidified.
Yeah.
Kind of being CB2.
Yep.
And then I thought Canteen played pretty well. I thought Minkins played pretty well. I was a bit surprised that Jaquan Sanks started over Mekhi Miller, but they both played quite a bit. I didn't see Marcavius Sabor didn't play. Did he?
Yeah, he played. Yeah.
Did he play? Okay. He didn't record a tackle.
It might have just been on special teams. But I mean, on the participation report, he was listed. Yeah.
I didn't notice him at safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But I'm not going to catch every guy that checks in. I do my best, but I'm not going to catch them all.
For what it's worth, Carroll did get the start at the other corner spot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like so many players played. I mean, I haven't seen a snap count. I know everyone's looking to see what was the snap count for the defense, but yeah, he did draw the start. So we'll see what that means going forward, especially into Saturday. Offensively, Sorsby obviously is the main topic when it comes to the offensive side.
And his play action is so good.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, his like I've joked a couple. It's not Boomer Esiason. Like he's not the best in the history of play action, but he does a great job putting the ball in the basket, pulling it out, kind of making the defense take that extra pause.
Yeah.
He doesn't telegraph it. Like kind of an old school play action guy. You don't see that a lot anymore, but like that touchdown pass to Xavier Henderson, read option look, like, yanked it back, one
Mhm.
beat, and ripped it down the field. That was a weird action on the Sterling Burkhalter one, as they fake the motion right,
Mhm.
and then spun around and
Yep.
bootlegged to his left. That was a creative play. Hopefully this is what we're about to see throughout the season with a more competent passing quarterback.
Yeah.
They were they were in their bag a little bit
Oh, they were.
on some of the Aaron Turner
Yep.
play, the play out of the end zone to Tony Johnson.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that was ballsy.
The
As far back
the Royer screen was probably my favorite play of the game.
yeah.
I mean, they definitely had things kind of lined up and working. Yeah, that Burkhalter play, you heard in the post game presser, Sorsby said, Burkhalter wasn't even supposed to be a guy that he looked for on the possession. And
He was supposed to be a clear out. He was supposed to clear out the defense, and the defense didn't go with him.
And he was just wide open. And you saw the way that Sorsby was just able to like flick of the wrist, just launched it. And he knew he just had to get it in the vicinity, and Burkhalter was going to catch it. But for me, and I kind of look back at the highlights of the game against EKU last season, just because obviously both were offense kind of just firework show. And each play in those that was a big play, Emory kind of just locked in and that it seemed like that first receiver option was open every single time. And if you remember in that game, Xavier Henderson had like a boatload of targets. He had a boatload of catches. Obviously had great stats in the first game as well. So to me, I felt like a lot of the times when Sorsby would get out of the pocket and kind of, get in scramble mode, and he was constantly eyes down the field. Even sometimes you could probably say, Sorsby, you can tuck it and run and pick up 6-7 yards, but he constantly wanted to just kind of toss it a little bit further down the field and rather get the ball into the hands of his playmakers. And I think it's a trait that we have not seen for a while. I think Dez showed that a little bit, but so Sorsby.
I wouldn't call Dez a passing quarterback though.
No. But
Sorsby has that mindset of like,
right. Yes. Yeah.
Throw it.
Yeah.
I can run it, but I want to throw it.
Yeah.
Not. I might throw it, but I'm probably going to run it.
Yeah, exactly. Roy, did you sense that out of Sorsby, that like no matter what the play is, he's constantly looking down the field? I think every time he ran it, it was a designed run.
The one where he was like running, but with his shoulders still square as he's like coming up, and then he like turns and just fires it right down the middle. I think it was in the third or fourth quarter.
It was third.
I can't remember that. I was like, damn, like that's a good ass quarterback play. Like good throw, eyes downfield, stepping up, getting his shoulders square and just delivering. And I was like, it just made me like, or like the play where he like juked the guy off his hip and like just dumped it, but the receiver tripped and felt like that. Like I was like, this kid could be like, he could really, really take this offense to new places. I don't know about this year, but next year it just he's got that kind of like dynamic, like playmaker quarterback, and not in terms of like he's going to go out there like Lamar Jackson, but just like he's going to make the throws. He's going to step up in the pocket. He's going to have his eyes downfield. And I think he's going to deliver strikes just all over the field at all levels. So I know it's hard. It's hard not to just jump on the hype train just after one game. We've learned our lessons with certain things on that, but
we did.
I think he did everything that you'd want your starting quarterback to do.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron, I'm going to bring you in on this. Joe Royer, as advertised, the hurdle that he did, if you go back and rewatch the game or rewatch the highlights, he looks like a legitimate NFL player with that hurdle. It's absurd athleticism. He looks like a creative player. Hat tip to Keegan. That's what he said to me as we were watching Royer warm up on the sidelines. He has all those traits where, I think he can tell this is his time to really go out there and do everything he can to showcase what he has. And he's really a player I could see having huge difference making opportunities all throughout the season because they set up plays designed for Royer. That screen pass, already mentioned it, was a thing of beauty. You set up the running back screen on one side and you slip out 2 offensive linemen and Royer on the other side, and Sorsby just puts it right there, and Royer shows his athleticism, picking up, I think, like a 38-yard gain. He has the makings of a big time player, Aaron. He's going to be, I imagine, the yin to the yang for Xavier Henderson, and he fit the bill, didn't he?
He's a freak. He's just legitimately a freak. How he got lost in the shuffle at Ohio State is, I guess, just a testament to their depth. But he is.
I mean, that was the problem, is he just never really had a chance to like win the position because he always had something nagging.
He's an NFL.
Yeah, and then when his mom passed, that messed with him, and that's the problem. There is you don't really get like a second chance if you have something that like knocks you down and somebody jumps ahead of you. Good luck getting back up over top. Yeah. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a dude.
Not to defend Ohio State in any way, shape, or form, but
just
saying.
No, that's Royer's team. But
get the hell out of here.
I wanted to see a little bit more Tyron Smith. I don't know if that was kind of more game plan wise or what it was. Although Aaron Turner had some really flashy plays out of the slot, but also just getting everyone involved. The running back room, getting everyone involved. I thought that it's going to be interesting to see when Pitt comes into town, kind of what the approach is, just overall plays and overall snaps going to certain players, because obviously only 7 carries for Kiner, but I thought Kiner looked damn good in those 7 carries. Obviously if he gets 7 more carries, he probably finishes up with 100 yards and a touchdown. It's going to be interesting to see how things are kind of worked and tweaked out. But for the most part, I thought, it was kind of a good way to spread things around and showcase what everyone has. Do you expect they'll kind of do that on Saturday to keep everyone fresh? I'm going to open up to everyone, or do you think it's going to be like okay, we trust these guys the most and they're going to carry kind of the workhorse load, whether it be on the outside receiving or running the football?
I think you'll still see some rotating. I don't think they're done with that. I don't think it'll be nearly as much as what you had this past week. On defense, you had 30 people. I think that you'll probably run 20, 25. Mm-hmm. I don't think maybe 20. Offensively, yeah, I think that you'll rotate guys in, but I don't think the offensive line is going to be rotating in. I don't think you're going to see too much past the twos, except at running back, which all those guys have shown that they can tote the rock. So,
yeah. Chad, Evan Pryor, what was his? Obviously we're not a injury podcast, but what, he was hampered towards the end of fall camp and kind of,
he just had a minor groin, like it was bothering him, and even everybody said like if this was game week, like he probably would be out there. But if you have a guy with like a soft tissue issue,
yeah,
you're going to be overly cautious. Mm-hmm. And they just held him out for 7-8 days to get it back to 100%. And mm-hmm. that's such a good running back room that guys took advantage. And while he wasn't there, guys stepped into that role and moved up with the way that they played. And then all of a sudden, Evan Pryor said, "Hey, don't forget me," right?
Yeah,
I'm going to get a couple touches, and I'm taking one of them 65 to the house, and he almost broke a second one.
Yeah, at the end there. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he was impressive. I thought he just showed that burst that, a lot of people mentioned that he was going to be bringing in from Ohio State. Victor Dawson, kind of backed up what you and Keegan and other people were saying about him from the camp reports. And the fumble thing is an easy fix. It's something that you've learned your entire life being a running back, is to carry it on the outside arm, and he knows it. But yeah, it's just so much depth in that room. Can keep them fresh, but I do think that this will probably be when they unleash Corey Kiner. It seems like they've kind of just been, holding him back because there's no real reason to release him, and so here we go. It'll be exciting to see what they go pit approach there. Royer, you rewatched the game today. I know you're not a former offensive lineman, so you weren't keyed into the O-line the entire time, but seemed like it was a clean pocket for pretty much the entire game. Seemed like they were opening up enough running holes to put up over 200 yards on the ground. Anything offensive line-wise that you kind of glared out to you, positive or negative?
No, I think they just handled their business. I think the main thing they improved on was their pocket presence for Sorsby. But other than that, I think they did everything, rush for 200 yards. I didn't see there was no injuries, no big major errors that costed the offense in any way. So I thought the O-line stayed on track for their pace of, being a good anchor to this offense and to the team too. So nothing really to highlight or,
Right. I got a question for you, Ryan. How much do you think it helps an offensive line knowing you've got a quarterback that's going to hang in the pocket and make the throw? That's not like, does it change the way maybe you pass protect if like this guy's not going to be trying to leak out? He's, not that Sorsby didn't, because he will, but he wants to stand in there and throw the football. Does it change the way you can pass protect a little?
I'm not sure. I don't really have any good insight. I have no real exposure to that type of coaching, but my guess is it almost might make it, you just know that you're like, you got to be on your game and know that, like, you got to hold your lane. You got to hold your part of the pocket and not just be like for a little, maybe just a little bit longer, or it almost might make your job a little bit harder, but the reaps, you can reap a lot bigger reward if you can kind of keep your lane and get your job done, knowing that your quarterback's kind of getting to his third, fourth option, or kind of making something happen and throwing someone open in a way that, previous quarterbacks we've had didn't really have the ability or opportunity to do.
Yeah. Just curious, just a thought.
No, yeah. I've never, like, to be honest, I've never heard any specific coaching on that in my time.
Maybe I'll try to snag Coach Cardwell at some point here in the next couple weeks and get his thoughts on that.
Yeah, their psyche is in regards to that. Yeah. Well, but before we move on, we must touch on the fact that we figured out who the Gunners are. Chad and Aaron, you guys said that you are the number one Gunner podcast in the country. No, this is the number one Gunner podcast in the country, not the recap. Come on now. Come on.
We're the number one Gunner network in the country.
Network. Yes. I agree with Gunner Network.
Nobody respects Gunners like the BCJ Podcast Network. I
agree. Absolutely, completely. So that's where we are. Xavier Henderson, Aaron, really good question to Xavier in the post-game presser about his favorite side of the football play, making plays on the gunner, making plays as receiver. Obviously, you had him a little tongue-tied, and he probably thought back to like a game during his high school days where he like had a sick interception and a couple of like blindside, just lay him out, hit sticks defensively, and he was like, wow, what if I would have just continued being that ball hawking safety?
Felt bad. I didn't mean to do that to the kid.
Man, he hit a flashback that my flashbacks when it comes to that is just like, damn, I peaked a long time ago. But his is probably like, yeah, defense sounds nice. But yeah, I thought Fletch looked like awesome. Obviously, Carter Brown missed that one field goal. I think that's going to be an anomaly, just the fact that he was so accurate last season. I don't know. It looked a little weird off the foot. Chad, you are the kicking specialist on this program, so you would know the best out of all of us. But it did seem a little weird off the foot. The whole play seemed a little funky, to be honest. But overall, need to figure out the whole punt return thing. I think Masari will be fine long term, but two muffed returns, one that was obviously a turnover. I don't know. It's a difficult scenario that us Bearcat fans are way too familiar with. But we'll see if he's back out there again come Saturday and come practice this week when you're there, Chad. So overall, didn't really feel like there's anything aside from those two blemishes that kind of, need fixed, obviously, because those were some points that were taken away and kind of points left on the board due to two tough mishaps that led to a field goal for Towson and led to a missed field goal for the Bearcats. Anything else, special teams guys, from you all?
No. I don't know if it was a hold issue or what with Carter Brown, but he didn't hit it clean.
Yeah.
The one punt by Fletch, the 54-yarder, where it was kind of a bad snap.
Yep.
And he kind of readjusted and just rocketed it. I mean, it was 10 yards over the head of where the return guy was set up. I mean, both punts were over 50 yards. Both had good hang time. Both allowed, that's really hard on those 50 plus. That's why coaches generally want you like 45 yards, 4.5 seconds hang time. So the gunners know exactly like where to be and when to be there. His leg looks like it's back to normal.
Yeah, he's probably been listening to the BVP and you keep saying his brother's better than him, so he's really honed in on proving you wrong, which is bulletin board material from the BCJ pods.
I had to take one of the bake sale chocolate chip cookies and sample it just to make sure that quality product.
Well,
quality product.
Okay.
I did good.
Do we have a taste of vision set up on the StreamYard tonight? Can you feed them to us through the camera?
Ooh,
if you're watching on YouTube, he's gonna give Aaron one. Aaron, here's yours. Take a bite. Good job, Aaron. Really good job. Good participation. But yeah, in the end, it's a 38-20 victory. Last year it was 66-13 over Eastern Kentucky. And we were taking, happy pills and drinking Kool-Aid that was obviously spiked with numerous different concoctions. So weather the storm of how you grade things following the victory over Towson. And no, as Coach Satterfield said, wins are hard to come by. There's no doubt about that. Look at Florida State. I think last I saw, they're struggling again at home against Boston College.
14-6 to Boston College.
At home to Boston College after a horrible showing in Ireland. So
DJ Ukulele stinks.
And in news that we are not that is very obvious now at this point.
He just missed two wide open throws in the end zone to cut it to 14-10 at the half.
The former 5-star is not a 5-star anymore. That one where there's a picture floating around where he was at the in Ireland and Georgia Tech was making some run, to get the game-winning field goal, and he's just sitting on the sidelines, hands in his pants. It's just like, all right, this guy is just like no care in the world. But anyway, that's a different team for a different time. But yeah, it's Pitt coming into Nippert Stadium, 12 noon Saturday. They're going to be giving a tip of the cap to the 2008 team. Last time that Pitt came into Nippert Stadium, the Tony Pike and the squad took them down. Quick thoughts. I'll lay out a little bit about Pitt, their quarterback. They did name Eli Holstein as their quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman transfer from Alabama. In his first, he was a top 100 recruit, a 4-star, obviously a very, very big time player out of Louisiana. He went out in the win against Pitt. He had over 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He's a guy that can sling it a little bit. Doesn't seem like he's got too much of running to him, but obviously Cade Bell is the offensive coordinator coming over from Western Carolina. Dave has mentioned him a couple times in a couple of the shows that he's on. And but still, this Pitt game, you look at the final score where they beat Kent State, and you kind of think like, oh wow, they're coming in 55-24. They took care of business against a Division I team. But you look at it, they were kind of in similar straits as Cincinnati, not truly, but it was 28-21 after Kent State scored a touchdown at the beginning of the third quarter. So it was a one-score game. Then kind of Pitt just kind of poured it on, if you will. They had a punt return for a touchdown. They also threw an interception inside of the 10-yard line. It's a team that came out, got a win, and they really flashed some big time plays, but definitely a team that is not without any blemish as well. Chad,
their defense didn't. I mean, it was 28-21 in the third quarter.
Yeah, 2021, beginning of the third, after Kent State scored a touchdown.
So, they had their issues as well. They did a little bit better job keeping their foot on the gas, but that was a one-score game. Through the third and middle of the third quarter. So, I think it's going to be close. I think we saw a close game last year at their place. I think you'll see another close game this year. It seems like they are, like Cincinnati, much more solidified at quarterback than they were a year ago. So it's going to be a test for the Cincinnati defense. That's going to be the telling thing is can this defense, we saw last year they gave the Pitt offensive front a lot of problems like that. Remember, we were talking about a dominant defensive line coming out of the Pitt game. They bullied the Pitt offense in that game. Yeah. And then they went non-existent for a while.
Yeah, it was like Briggs and Corleone show.
Next 10 games.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We will see. I was meaning to ask you guys this. Do you think just the overall NIL impact is kind of starting to level the playing space with like some of the lower level teams?
I think it's all a jumbled mess.
Yeah, and like you said, Chad, just teams like coming in like transfers and like new rosters, and just like kind of like the turnover rate is so different. Like you're kind of seeing like teams hang in there with, I guess, in these tune-up games. You kind of seen, I feel like the past this year and a little bit last year, you're kind of seeing it a little bit more than it is in the past. So I don't.
Yeah, teams don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the teams that look great are the teams that just like have those star qualities at the right positions. Like, I mean, Miami looked awesome, but they have, they added really great pieces through the portal at quarterback and running back. They had a really good wide receiver. If you kind of watched a lot of the games, I don't know if you guys did, but like, I mean, Notre Dame, Texas A&M game, I thought obviously Notre Dame squeaked out a win, which was, and Chad, I take your stance as well on this. Is, I hated Notre Dame growing up because a lot of my friends were big Notre Dame fans just because they were, Indiana connection, this, that, and the other. But now I've got a different tune. I was kind of rooting for the Irish a little bit with Freeman and the entire coaching staff out there.
The entire coaching staff. I forgot Mike Brown is there. Denbrock, Gino, Free, Chad Bowden. I could go up there and like walk in and feel like I hadn't missed a beat covering the Bearcats. Like I'd have to meet like 3 coaches and I would be fine with everybody else.
Yeah.
I wouldn't move to South Bend for $1 million, but I could.
Yeah. But yeah, Ryan, to your point though, it's like even in that LSU USC game last night, I thought that both teams looked really good, but they have a lot of pieces offensively that were just strong additions, whether it be through the portal or both quarterbacks went the old-fashioned way of like developing throughout the program. But I don't know, it seemed like there is the teams that look really good up at the top, like Ole Miss obviously has a bunch of returning guys, and then there's kind of the middle part is just like a lot of like blah, if you will. It's a weird dynamic, but I think like as Chad said, come week 3, week 4, week 5, you're gonna see kind of those middle kind of blah teams figure it out and then they're going to get better.
Well, you're either are or you aren't.
Right.
The
right.
ones that
Yeah,
figure it out are going to elevate, and the ones that don't are going to finish in the bottom of their conference.
exactly.
We've forgotten in college sports that continuity is a good thing. Continuity is a plus.
Unless you're
Continuity
Clemson, which they could still win the ACC, which is like a different thing. I don't know.
Yes.
But yes, continuity as a whole is very important. I think you'll see that in Cincinnati next coming years. If Sorsby is able to kind of take off the way that a lot of us imagine he will. So I don't know. Royer, do you think it's like going into the season every year, was it extremely important that everyone was kind of clicking on all cylinders, or did the staff kind of know, hey, if we have, week one, got to work some things out, obviously the first road at UCLA, that's a tough game. Home against UCLA was the other opener. I guess one was Austin P was an opener. Was it kind of just extremely important to hit the ground 100% ready, or was there an understanding that you're going to get better from week 1 to week 2? That obviously the cliche thing Aaron mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it was, the message was always kind of like we come back from camp, it's like we are playing to win a football game. Like this is not about like development. This is about winning. This is about, we are going out there with our best guys and we're going to have the best game plan, and like it's about executing and going like balls to the wall essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really about like, oh, well, we'll get ready for this one. But we really want to be ready down when, it was, Coach Fickle had a very consistent approach. He didn't really, I think that's, the best recipe to handle this stuff.
Yeah. But, I mean, we'll see.
My support continues.
The big old supporter. Yeah, so
they're not having a lot of fun right now in Madison.
Oh man.
No, winning's hard. Do you know how many times I heard that? Oh my god, especially that playoff year. Every damn win sucked ass, it felt like, until Coach Fickle decided that
there was no joy in Mudville.
Yeah.
At Tulane, at Navy, home against Tulsa, just whatever.
Oh, the Tulsa game we should have lost. Like no one even everyone just is like, oh, the freaking game day's here. We're on the way to the playoff. It was like, and we were like, had the game in hand, and then we literally had 4 stops from the 1.
8.
Yeah.
Or some shit like that.
Remember, you stopped them, and then Dez fumbled the handoff. Gave it back to him at the 3, and they have 4 more cracks at it from inside the 5.
Well, the rest is history. Here, hold on one sec. It was in the end.
Oh God, what's he doing?
I found this the other day. In the end, y'all still were able to go here.
Yes.
There we go. There we go. Which is, I mean, nowadays it's easier to get into the playoffs. So hopefully that's something in the foresight. But Natty Ron, you said 17-10, an ugly game on Saturday. Woo, baby. You would lose a lot of money if you bet that under.
I think it's going to be the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of yards gained, and a lot of hopefully touchdowns scored by Cincinnati, and denial of touchdowns for Pitt. But yeah, I mean, Chad, you mentioned obviously Pitt losing their leading rusher, but I mean Desmond Reed, who came over from Western Carolina with Cade Bell, he kind of became a bit of a star, bursting onto the scene. Had 100 some yards and 14 carries, 145 yards, and a touchdown. Added the punt return for a touchdown as well. So he kind of flashed big time. Yeah. And Kenny Johnson, he played against the Bearcats last year. 7 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. They got a lot of kind of those guys. If you remember the Kanata Munkfield was another name. They've got playmakers that can kind of fuel this offense, but it's going to be the first true road game for their quarterback, Eli Holstein. So we'll see how it goes. redshirt freshman coming into the NIP. Hopefully the crowd is loud and proud.
Don't let him stand back there and pick you apart.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
You know,
They gotta bring some blitzes. It's got to be something that we see. So I'm excited either way. Well, we ready for an old timestamp, and we'll riff and then mailbag it up.
Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They service over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries, providing a wide range of food service products, to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom. Royer, it's almost that time to get a little riff with you. You know, it is Labor Day today. So you can bring that riff out, the new riff bottle out that you were drinking from earlier. You can take another pull, pour up another shot, bring out the shiggity, no chaser, and let's see how we do. Unabashedly innovative.
Oh, sorry. I was checking on something else. That's my bad. My bad.
You're good. You're good.
Where's it at? There it is. Fiercely independent. That's the part you always forget, Brent.
Yeah.
Fiercely independent and unabashedly innovative. New Riff produces award-winning bourbon, rye, and gin at their distillery in Newport, Kentucky. The Aquafire Tasting Room, located on the third floor of the distillery, features cocktails, flights, and pours of New Riff's entire line of spirits, including rare, limited edition, and distillery exclusive releases. Bearcat Journal listeners can save 50% on distillery tours when you use the code Bearcats24. For more information or to book a tour, visit newriffdistilling.com.
Bang. All
Ryan.
right. So my opinion is the triple threat on offense that leads us to a win is the Sorsby, Henderson, Royer trio. How many passing yards out of Sorsby and receiving yards out of the other two do you think would warrant a Bearcats win on Saturday?
I like it. I like the question.
I think you're going to need at least 250 passing, probably closer to 300 to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys can also chime in.
How much of that for Xavier Henderson, Chad?
115, 100,
Okay.
115.
So I was.
One
I mean,
play in there. You need a big
one big chunk play. I'm I don't know a ton about this Pitt defense yet.
Right.
But I'm wondering how much you're going to want to try to spread them out, spread it around. I mean, they hit 9 targets. Sorsby hit 9 targets yesterday, so he's going to spread it around. But it's pretty clear the majority of the chunk of them are going to go to Royer and Henderson. I would say, how about you need 200 combined from those two.
So I looked it up.
And then another 100 or so from everybody else.
I looked it up because I kind of remembered this last year. I wanted to just double check, but obviously I kind of mentioned it earlier that Xavier Henderson popped in the season opener against Eastern Kentucky, 7 receptions, 149 yards, and a touchdown. And then I remember he really struggled in the second game at Pitt. He only had 1 catch for 10 yards. So I think he's going to remember that. And I think he's going to want to kind of come out and show bright. If you remember the game last year, Emory had a really good first half. Kind of the script was really on point for him. I kind of see Sorsby showing what he can do again. I'd say 280 passing is what Sorsby's going to have. And I do think that Henderson goes over the 100-yard mark just because you could just see he's got a different gear to him this year. Had a couple good, runs after the catch, probably gained an extra 15 to 20 yards just on yak. So I'll say 110 out of Henderson, 280 for Sorsby.
I think you need 175 between both of them combined. Whoever gets the majority, so be it. And I think that 280 honestly sounds like about the right spot. But I'll just go up to 300 just to not have the same number as you.
I wanted to be at 300, but I think this is a game where we start to see the running attack as well. Not that we didn't in the first week, but yeah.
I just wonder how much you're going to have to pass to keep up.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah,
this isn't a team that's going to want to like run it and chew clock. They're going to want to move up and down. Like they run a lot of tempo.
Yeah, 80 plays.
Yeah. So probably going to be another 4-hour marathon.
Speaking of keeping up, kind of trending over to trying to limit them from staying on pace with us. So is that pretty much the consensus you guys are going with? It's just going to be who could score last. So you think it's?
I think I think it changes if Dante is cleared and comes back. I think that would be the only thing that would change it. Because then you can then the defense just has a completely different dynamic to it. But until that's the fact, then yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a track race for sure.
Yeah. So if you were my next question is, if you were the defensive coordinator, are you have to pick one, because we can sit back and say just do a mix of both. Are you looking dial up the pressure more, trying to bring chaos to the air raid, or are you looking to kind of play it safe, sit back with our play zone, utilize our 8-man drop, so to say, and I felt like last year we kind of really dialed it up on Pitt. Our defense got to them, kind of like what you guys were saying. So if you were the D coordinator, you had to pick a side of the coin to walk out of there with a win. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I think I'm being selective with the pass rush. I think I'm going to use it, but I'm not going to I think showing your hand early probably isn't the best idea here. Like if this is going to be a close game, I'd rather still have a couple tricks up my sleeve for third quarter, unless you get down 14 or whatever, and then you got to kind of get a little bit more aggressive. But if both teams are in it, I would like to see them be a little selective with when they bring pressure, maybe a little bit early, first drive or two. You want to get a young quarterback kind of sped up, and then you sit back a little bit and figure out if you've got to unleash the hounds on him a little bit later in the game, mid third quarter, early fourth quarter, things of that nature. So kind of a mix. I mean, I know that's a cop out kind of to the question, but a little bit early and then kind of evolve with the game flow from there. Because I think if you bring pressure a little bit early and it doesn't work, and that was your whole game plan, like then you're scrambling, right? Then you're on your heels a little bit, and they're picking you apart and moving the ball up and down the field. I think you kind of have to be ready, and they will run the ball out of the air raid. Like I know people think air raid and they think 60 passes a game, but the best air raid attacks have a balance to them that at least keeps you guessing a little bit, where you can't, you're not you're not, pass blitzing and sending the house all the time, trying to create timing issues. So I want to see that aggression out of the gate, out of the tunnel, and then maybe kind of just put it in the back pocket for a little bit and dial it back up a little bit later.
Ryan, you were right. 5 sacks at Pitt last year.
Yeah, and it was
Corleone and Briggs dominated.
Yeah,
them. They beat the hell out of that offensive line.
Yeah, and Chad, kind of what you were saying, it started piling on towards the end too, because we
Yeah.
kind of realized, hey, this quarterback can't throw. Like we got immediate pressure coming in from Briggs and Corleone. Let's just turn it up on him and go make some plays.
Yeah, because it was Dingle who came up with that final sack. Remember in that last series that Pitt was trying to pull out the win. I mean, I know that Holstein was a highly regarded prospect. I know he transferred from Alabama, but this is a pretty much a true freshman because he didn't play at Alabama last year or like started and playing on the road against a big time opponent. I'm with Chad. I want to amp up the pressure in the beginning. I don't want him to face 3-man rushes and kind of have all the time to kind of just relax and pick and choose when he's going to kind of make his throws. So I want to amp up the pressure and get after him early, kind of frustrate him and see what can happen from there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to do that against a freshman making his first road start.
I think it's a delicate dance between how aggressive and how conservative you need to be. That said, you're looking for your linebackers to be better this game. You're looking for the defensive line to show something more than they did last game, and your secondary as well. So I think that you're going to see some aggression to try and build some confidence early, and then kind of naturally let it evolve with the game as it does.
Boom.
DJ Ukulele throws a pick. Boston College returns it to the 5, punches it in, and is now 21-6.
Norvell plays Memphis later on in a couple.
Memphis is good.
Yeah, I mean, that's sheesh. I mean, talk about just like a fall from grace that they were like, we're going to the playoffs most likely because we're undefeated in the regular season, to getting beat 63-3 to Georgia in their bowl game, then obviously losing to Georgia Tech, and now this.
I don't know if Ukulele can bring them back from down 15 in the second half.
I just don't understand how he can be so bad. Which he had that one game at Notre Dame his freshman year where he was just awesome. And
that was it's what that Notre Dame defense at that point in time was, that secondary was dreadful.
Right.
Now they've got the Free and Mike Mickens treatment, and they're the best secondary in the country. It's funny how that seems to keep repeating itself.
Man, Mickens, what a guy! What a guy! Royer, you got one more?
I do. How much? I mean, I'm trying to think of a way to word this. How many points do you think Dante Corleone accounts for if he plays on Saturday?
It's a good
How
one.
many points is he worth to this team?
It's a really good one.
Tough too, because we haven't seen him at all this summer. Like, I mean, he's out there, but he's not in the 11 on 11. He's not, really, when they're doing live team stuff, which is really, when you draw your conclusions. It's hard to predict immediately, I think, what he looks like until you get a chance to see him out there and moving guys around, because especially against the interior of this offensive line, which I think is probably the biggest strength of the team, with Gerhardt and Tinsley and Kandra. I'll say how about this? I say he's good for one stop. At least one third down, it makes one play that gets you off the field that maybe you wouldn't have made if he wasn't out there. Yeah. And, if that's 7, that's 7. If it's 3, it's 3. But at least one time, I think, in that game, if he plays, he'll get you the ball back.
You know what the weirdest thing is about Dante? It's not weird. It's just something to think about, is the fact that, a lot of players, and Dante obviously is having a scenario that a lot of people don't really go through, and Dante is at high spirits about it and everything, which is awesome to see. But say a player is like injured and they're coming back from injury, and the first game back is kind of, do you ease them in? Do you send them out there full go for every snap? I imagine it's kind of a specialist mentality. But a defensive lineman, if you're like an edge rusher or like a pass rushing specialist, the staff can kind of pick and choose when to bring you out on the field and let you go in your first game back. But Dante's play style is more just like he grinds the offensive line down throughout the entirety of the game, and that means he's piling up snaps and just making that opposing center's life hell for 4 hours. So that would be the interesting thing to look at is, if he comes back and he is on a bit of a snap count. And Matt Lanham in the chat's asking if it's over under 15 snaps.
I don't know.
He's got to be out there a long time to have the amount of impact that he has in games. So as far as total points, I think he would aid into stopping one scoring drive. So if the over under is 59.5 right now, where it is, let's say both teams combined for 63 total points, I think he's worth 7 points to 1 touchdown.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to kind of hit on is that not that what Dante does isn't like incredibly impressive, but I think what they ask him to do, it's not like it's super technically like, I think Dante can go in there and just maul dudes a lot easier than like if you have like a corner who hasn't covered a wide receiver for like a month and like trying to go back out there and like have his kind of like have his swag out there, have his game locked down. I think Dante
just go out there and be the baddest, strongest MFer on the field.
Just go maul 2 dudes at once. Like just go straight forward. But like his ability is like God tier. So, you can, I'm not trying to like belittle him in any way, shape, or form, but just maybe some encouragement for the fans. Like, I don't think Dante might have some rust, but the rust can get knocked off pretty quick if you just say, Dante, go straight forward and kill the 2 people that first come in front of your way on the offensive line. And he's made his heyday doing that.
Yeah, even a rusty Dante is, I think, good for 7. Largely because the drop off after Dante at that position is so wide at this point, as you're missing Jalen Hunt. So those guys are coming up and they're working on their craft as well. So good on them. But simply because the drop off is so big, I think that you're looking at 7 at least.
Yeah, one weakness of Pitt is their offensive line, though. They had some issues kind of protecting their quarterback in week 1. I think they gave up only 3 sacks, but he was kind of pressured more than he should against Kent State. So in a scenario where Cincinnati kind of struggled at getting pressure on the quarterback and whatnot, I think having Dante out there to make 2 or 3 players have to account for him, even on passing downs, would only help out the entire the defensive line even that more. Randy Lockfield says Pitt center is Lyndon Cooper, 6'2", 315. If Dante's out there, you could put anyone in there at center, and Dante's going to give the guy fits. So, man, I hope he's back. So we'll see more as the week unfolds. Anything more, Ryan? Well, there's that one you texted me today. Remember, you said I'm watching this hot dog eating contest, the Glizzy Gulpers going at it on Netflix. You mentioned the fact that it was Kobayashi only taking down, I believe, 66, and you said, how about that goat? And so you were asking us, who, if you had to pick, which food?
Why do you have to do this charade that you had this imaginary text conversation with Ryan?
It's not imaginary. He's telling the
truth. Dude, we blow each other up, man. We truly blow each other up. But yeah, Joey Chestnut, yet again, the GOAT. So you were saying a fun question would be, what food would each of you guys pick if you had to have a food eating contest? broadcast live for the entire world to see. And you said you're going to start with Chad. Chad, take it away.
I don't eat like large quantities of food, so I don't know that there's anything I would have a lot of success eating a lot of. I mean, like I think I max out at like 15 chicken wings. I'm like, all right, I've had like I'm good. Maybe thin crust pizza.
Ooh,
I could do pretty well. Cut into like the squares.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a lot if you gotta like you got the triangles and you're trying to like but you get a nice like crispy cracker like thin crust cut into the squares.
Mm-hmm.
I could house probably Donato's. Domino's actually has a really good crispy thin crust.
Okay.
I like it much better than like the other stuff that they have.
Yeah.
Domino's.
The Domino.
That was, I guess, like this crispy thin crust pizza.
Okay.
Pepperoni, just pepperoni.
Yeah. And then Royer, you said, Aaron, you're next.
Yep. Yeah. God, you have a great memory, man.
Yeah.
Aaron, let's hear it.
I don't think I'd want to competitively eat anything because then it would ruin it. I don't want to puke after the fact and have that food be ruined for me forever. I don't eat. I'm like Chad. I don't eat a ton of anything.
But
you did.
But
I don't know.
You probably should have saved this for the mailbag because we don't have any Banks questions.
Well, we're about to hop in here shortly, so
tacos.
Okay, good pick. Royer, what are you going with?
Cheese coney has always intrigued me.
Okay.
What was the other one I was just about to say?
Those are a lot, man. Once you get to like 6 or 7 cheese conies, like they sit heavy.
Yeah, Ed had to do 12 to get Sean Casey to come on our podcast, and he had 9 and then puked.
Yeah.
That is Ed's claim to fame right there.
Sean Casey still came on, but
because he's the legend, mayor of Cincinnati. Mine is definitely pizza. I'm with you, Chad. Just man, I think I could eat like the crazy thing is when you get a pie to yourself, a little personal pie, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and you're like, whoa, where did that personal pie go? And you're like, oh shoot, my belly. I could probably do 5 of those personal pies in one sitting if I really had to. So here we are. Pizza. That's my answer. Great job, Ryan. Love riffing with you every week. I'm excited for Saturday though. Saturday pit game. But let's go. Mailbag ready. Timestamp first.
Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They provide mostly disposable restaurant supplies, to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes. Speaking of pizza, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. Call Nick 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first purchase.
All right. Well, let's get this mailbag done.
Aaron's ready for that.
Yes. Did the offensive lineman from Maine play?
Xavier Lozawicki, yes. He played at the end when Brady Lichtenberg came in. He was in, I think, at left tackle.
Short and sweet.
Yes.
Boom.
You got questions? I got answers.
Hey,
what
is that? A Google ad?
It's Radio Shack's old tagline.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
How do we stop the run with our current guys and scheme? Seems like we had all sorts of issues.
I mean, again, I thought I don't think it was schematic. I thought it was execution. I felt like the ends were crashing in and it was leaving the area off tackle wide open for guys to run through. I think you need linebackers in those gaps. I think you need to be a little wider, potentially with your line splits or at least where and how they're attacking. Again, I wonder how much of that was related to Corleone not being available and them trying to mask not being, as good as they want to be at nose tackle. So I think some of that is, especially if you get Dante back. If you ask Pat Narduzzi, he'll be back. I'll ask Scott Satterfield tomorrow. But I think Scott Satterfield will have a better grasp on it than Pat Narduzzi. But I think it was execution more than it was necessarily scheme. But also, Ryan, I'll tell you this: it's a numbers game. If it's 5-on-3, it doesn't matter if it's an FCS line. If you're only bringing 3, sometimes 4 guys, you're going to lose that battle consistently. And then what happens? Why did I talk about worrying about safeties making a bunch of tackles? Because that means tackles are being made 5, 6, 7 yards down the field. That is what we saw on Saturday. Sometimes I do actually have a glimpse of knowledge of what I'm talking about with football. It's not all the time, but it's sometimes. If you're allowing guys to get 5, 6 yards down the field and your safeties are making tackles, you're in trouble defensively. You're not in a good place defensively. And I mean, what we had, Minkins had 6, Peak had 6, Sanks had 4, Mekhi Miller had 4, Kai Stokes had 3, Derek Canteen had 2, Logan Wilson had 2. The safeties were making a lot of tackles, and that is a product of not having enough, hats at the line of scrimmage. And again, you can call it a 3-3-5 thing. I'll get to that with another question later that I'm interested to see what Royer's take is. But you've got to be able to have more guys at the point of attack if you're planning on being an effective run defense. They were very vanilla. I mean, it was 3, maybe 4 guys attacking the line of scrimmage. And when that is the case, teams are going to be able to run on you.
30 Walrus, real quick. Yes. He said on the bright side, at least the safeties are making the tackles this year. Yes, they are coming up.
Correct.
So,
yes.
So
absolutely.
far through week 1, they're coming up and they are laying the wood. There's no doubt about that. Go ahead, Roy.
I think we got a better linebacker play. I don't think it was terrible, but I think they have to step up, because without them being able to block the feet, and if you saw when Dingle went on the outside of his leverage and then ran into, I don't remember who it was, and then the running back just cuts right inside. He goes for 10, 15 yards. I don't remember what it was. But you can't have those mistakes. And essentially, you're betting on your linebackers being able – one of your guys being able to get off a block and make a play, and then have your star / your boundary safety in there for support, if they can't. But I think that there are some schemes, stunts, run blitz looks that I think they definitely have, and I think you're going to see a little bit more of versus Pitt, because they're going to need to, because Pitt's going to, if I was Pitt and I watched that film, I'm like, we should definitely look at running the ball and trying to get some production out of that on our defense, and not just go air raid, throw it out to the flats and intermediate all game long. So, but I think there is a little more wrinkles, and I think if in order for us to win, guys have to use those wrinkles and kind of just be better at the linebackers position.
All right. Any conference mates results raise an eyebrow for you, good or bad?
Texas Tech 52-51 over Abilene Christian in overtime, and Abilene Christian had a 2-point conversion to win at the end of that overtime that Tech snuffed out. That one definitely jumped out at me. Iowa State was a 21-3.
Yeah,
and they really couldn't run their running game was bad. That one surprised me a little bit.
48-7, Arizona State. That one really surprised
Arizona
me.
State was surprising, and then the guy for Arizona that put up 310 yards receiving.
Just unbelievable.
I don't know that I've ever done that in a video game.
McMillan, 10 catches, 304, 4 touchdowns. It's all records.
30 yards a catch.
Yeah.
On 10 catches.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Also, quick mention, things are not going too well down in Houston.
No, I've only seen something like that once.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, Brett?
What, the 10 receptions, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns? No, you'd have to jog my memory for me.
Chris Moore, like the 30 yards catch. Like
that. Well, that game at Ohio State. Oh my God! No.
What about Jalen Hyatt versus Bama?
Yeah, that was awesome too. Gosh, that game was amazing. That game is like, this is why I love college football.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Houston looks like terrible.
Trash. They got a long way to go.
Although UNLV might be a playoff team from the G5, they look pretty good.
I mean, UNLV, Memphis, we'll see
Boise,
South Florida, Boise State.
Yeah. And then of course, both Cincinnati players that transferred to Arizona State scored in that game, which is wild. Shaman and Justin Watley both found the end zone. Just crazy.
Watley with the scoop and score.
Yeah.
I did not see that.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, they handled Wyoming, who's normally a pretty good team. Which, I mean,
they're predicted to be pretty down this year.
Yeah, I think
they were like 4th or 5th in their division. They were predicted.
Okay.
All right. Do you feel the 3-3-5 defensive alignment is best for our team? It looks to me it's very hard to stop the run again. Will they mix the defensive alignment up?
Too early to tell really how good the mesh is with them.
Let me ask you this. Do you really want more defensive linemen on the field right now? Like, that is our question, right? Like, if you had Dante Corleone and Jalen Hunt, okay, maybe go to some 4-down sets. You got 2 guys that are gonna be a force in the middle of that defense, and you can try to generate some more pressure off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
We worry about the pass rush. We worry about their ability to stop the run. What does that tell me? You've got a defensive line that is not exactly the strongest group on your team. We're ready to put more of them out there. For me, that's not the answer. I don't think.
And Chad, I'm going to also bring up the point, and Ryan, I'm interested to see if you agree. When in basketball, you hear it all the time where it's like, oh, the man-to-man is struggling. They're getting into the lane nonstop. Why don't you just do a 2-3 zone? I mean, it's obvious reasons why you don't. The staff doesn't just flip to a 2-3 zone. If they had that in their pocket and they knew that would be a resolution to stop things, then they would do it. But if you're a man-to-man defensive team, then you're going to continue with the man-to-man defensive team. I mean, you brought in a defensive coordinator that this is his 3-3-5 scheme. I don't think that he's going to all of a sudden be like, all right, we're going to a 5-2 and we're going to stop the run. So I don't think that it's going to mix up. I think it's going to. They are running this defense for a reason, and that's the scheme that they have. I just don't think that they're going to just throw it all away after one game.
Also, Brent, 5 defensive backs on the field is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
So if you want an extra down lineman, that means you're taking a linebacker off the field.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that? Because guess what? They are going to play three safeties in this defense. Like that's the one of the basis of this defense. They are going to play 3 safeties. So if you're going to play 2 corners and 3 safeties, and you want 4 down linemen, it's going to be a 4-2-5. And you have one less guy that can make plays in space with one less linebacker on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for that? And essentially, with Bartlett, you are playing 4 guys that are going to be going after the quarterback most of the time. Does it have its disadvantages against the run game? Yes. But why was it created? To stop pass-heavy offenses in the 2020s, like in this new era of football.
Mhm.
So do I think it's going anywhere? No. Do I think it's the best alignment for the makeup of this team? Absolutely. Because you don't have yet the strength at defensive line that you would need to play 4-down linemen. And I do think there was some talk about playing more 4-down linemen if you had Corleone and Hunt. Right now, they don't have either.
Right.
So no, I'm not putting 4-down linemen on the field if I feel like that is the weakest position group on my defense at the current moment due to injuries and whatever else. Do I feel that? Yeah. Do I want to put an extra one out there? Probably not. Ryan, would you agree?
I do agree the way you laid it out.
Thanks.
All right.
And remember, our weakness was the secondary, giving them an extra body. Theoretically,
Yeah.
in a perfect world, would help.
You're right
All
about
right.
that one, Randy. Gilliard and his 365 all-purpose yards versus Oklahoma, but that was also like 200 return yards or 170-something return yards, whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Mhm.
He was a bad mamma jamma. I was talking about 30 yards of play. Chris Moore against Ohio State was maybe over 30 yards of play.
Mhm.
Because I think he caught 4 passes. All of them were like 70-plus yards.
Yeah.
All right. Which scenario is most likely to benefit the Bearcats the most if it occurs? The Godfather returns by week 3 and is voted first-team All-American at year's end. Evan Pryor leads the Bearcats in yards per carry on 100-plus attempts. Brendan Sorsby ends the year playing 12 games with only 7 interceptions. One Bearcat linebacker is first-team All-Conference. Joe Royer plays to a level to become a consensus second-round NFL draft pick.
What was the one before Joe Royer?
One Bearcat linebacker is first-team All-Conference.
I'll go with only 7 interceptions for Sorsby because that means you are moving the ball down the field. You are not giving sudden change opportunity for your opponent, and you are keeping this defense on the sidelines more frequently. I'll go with that one.
I'd say A. Dante gets voted first team All American because that would mean that
That
he
means he came in and he dominated. Yeah.
he just unbelievably amazing. And that I think in the 3-3-5, if you have an absolute first team All American at that nose tackle position, I think it just helps the team out way, way more than anything else.
would be my number 2.
I'm kind of going to piggyback you, Brent, but use it to make my answer the linebacker second. What is it first? Because I think Dante, no matter what, he's going to have a good year. I don't think we need him to be like set the world on fire by after missing 2 games and just does unbelievable. I think if we have him and we know who he is and he comes in and he produces like he did previously, and then you combine that with a linebacker that just balls out and really comes onto the scene, I think that'd be better for the defense as a whole.
Yeah. Because he's already got that reputation as well. So yeah.
I think I'm with Chad on Brendan Sorsby ending the year playing 12 games with only 7 interceptions. It means he took care of the ball.
For me though, it's
Plus you fumble it 5 times a game.
Yeah, or he didn't, or he's not throwing a lot at all. It's like they're running it every single play. But hey, if every single one of those happens, we'll be heading to the national championship. See y'all there.
Easy, Tiger. Easy.
All right, that ends the football portion of the mailbag, and the last question in the mailbag comes from the basketball portion. Rank your top 5 best dunkers in Bearcat history.
Ooh.
James White, number 1.
The man of flight.
Well, Reuben Patterson had some Reuben Patterson was a game dunker.
I mean, Melvin Levitt.
Melvin
Melvin
Levitt.
Levitt.
Well, Mel should probably be number 1. Flight 2, Reuben 3.
I mean, then you've got just like scary good, like aggressive, ferocious dunkers like Hicks and Max
Hicks.
Seal.
Right.
But then, I mean, you have to have Kenyon in there, obviously.
Kenyon 4.
Trying to think who's the best dunker of the last like 5 to 10 years.
Probably Jake.
Yeah, Jake had some hops. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's like really
Darnell Wilkes was a great dunker, but he just
Darnell Wilkes
never really got to show us he was a great dunker.
He got to show the Harlem Globetrotter faithful his dunking ability.
Day if he finished. Yeah, Day had a stretch there at the beginning of the season where he tried to dunk on everybody and didn't really convert many of them.
Although
Gary was a great game dunker.
Yeah, but like gosh, his high school highlight tape made me think we were getting some high flying dude. But he had that one though, that
the ankle injury.
Memphis.
The Memphis alley-oop was great.
Aaron, who are we missing?
Would you put DeMar in there?
DeMar was a shooter. I mean, DeMar had some nice dunks, but I don't think I'd consider him a dunker, if you will.
Yeah. Hat tip to Newman. He had a couple good ones, but I don't think he's a greatest Bearcat dunker of all time level. But
I think the problem is his best dunks were probably at Clemson. Right? He had the one on Duke.
The one at Houston was unreal that he had fast break like his first year here. And then last year I thought he had a couple of really good ones like through traffic and whatnot. That one baseline one, I think, in the opener. I think Dan has compiled some good dunks. I think this year he's going to do some crazy ones as well. And then probably add Dylan Mitchell by the end of the season. Let's hope. What's that, Chad?
You're muted, Chad.
He's got a chance to be up there for sure. Sorry, the dog was barking.
Gosh, I mean Justin Jackson, who I saw in the airport a couple weeks ago. Great guy. Did
you give him a mean face?
Oh, I took a picture with him and everything. Said, "What's up, JJ?" He saw me wearing Cincinnati gear, and he immediately gave me the "What's up," and I gave him the "What's up," and we dapped up, and the rest is history. Royer, who you got? Great dunkers.
I have no clue, to be honest.
You know, actually, was a pretty good game dunker was Dion Dixon.
Yeah, his one against Florida State in the NCAA tournament had me hype.
I don't know if I'd put him in the top 5, but I'll give him an honorable mention. He had some good game dunks.
Yancey had a couple good throwdowns. How about
I'll put Hicks at number 5.
Yeah. Let's just name every single player that has ever thrown down a cool dunk for the Bearcats in the history.
That's the mailbag. Get us out of here, Brent.
Big game this weekend, guys. Pitt coming into town, 12 noon celebration for the 2008 team. It's gonna be a tough one. Panthers come in. It's gonna be exciting. I hope that everyone can be in attendance because the louder it is for that 12 noon kick, the better it'll be for the football team. So, anything else, guys? Anything in closing? We all good?
Nope.
Pitt, 12 noon. Stay locked into BCJ. We'll have you covered up all the way to kickoff. But for my guys, my pals, the squad, the crew, shouts to Danco, Joe, Danco Transmission, Not a Care. Shouts, of course, to Quick Paper Supply. Shouts, of course, to New Riff. But for Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer, I am Brent Young. Happy Labor Day. But this has been another great BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.